Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Crossed Over Celebrity Channel. My name is Tina Ducharme. Today, we're going to talk about what's going on with a lot of these crises, such as what's going on in Afghanistan, what's going on in Haiti. So I wanted to touch base a little bit because I know personally I'm very empathic, and over the last week or so, I've been feeling a kind of a wide range of emotions, trying not too much to watch what's on the news over and over because it can be very disheartening, but to kind of get a sense of what's going on. And so a lot of the emotions that we're feeling, Haiti with the earthquakes and Afghanistan with the Americans pulling out, there is really there's a lot of fear going on, and I could feel it, sense of anger and betrayal and a lot of blaming and shaming going on because people are feeling very unsafe and feeling like they're not being heard, and that obviously their lives can be in jeopardy, and people that are struggling on a day-to-day basis. So I wanted to bring through a celebrity that could maybe help us to make some sense of everything and not feed into the fear, because that, again, it is all about us connecting at a much deeper level, not taking sides. That doesn't mean that you can't take a stand, but it's very important about not maintaining this cause of separateness and this cause of us against them, because I believe we're all one. So today's bringing through Walter Cronkite, who was a journalist and had lived quite a long life. He died at age 92, but he lived through many wars, many trials and tribulations, among many great things that happened as well. And we'll talk about all of those things. But he was a person of great integrity. And we'll take a short look at his soul contract. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But at today's focus, I want to be mainly on us addressing what the average person, maybe who isn't involved or doesn't have a lot of money, what we can do as light workers, and just to help or to feel that we're part of the solution. So again, I'm going to share my screen and bring up Walter's chart here. So here is Walter Cronkite. I have a hard time saying his name, so bear with me, please. And like I said, he was mainly during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, he was a news anchorman. But primarily why I brought him forward, or why he was coming to me to share some of his messages, is because he was a foreign correspondent journalist, and he traveled very much during wartime to different places. In World War II, he flew bombings over Germany. He reported on D-Day, and he also reported on the Nuremberg trials, and served quite a bit of time in Russia as well. So this was a person during this incarnation where he gained a great deal of insight from wars, the havocs, that it places on people, the stress, the destruction, and all of those things where we, live in this dual environment. And this is very unconscious behavior, going to war, using force to solve your problems, or to create dominance, or this kind of egoic way of solving problem structure. And so I was really happy that he came forth, because I think he'll have a lot to add to the story today as we talk more. He also reported on the JFK assassination, but also the moon landing. He was a big proponent of space and read everything he could so that he could translate that very well over his broadcasts to the American people. That plays out in his chart quite a bit. So if you're new to listening to some of my channels, I do always put a introductory video on the soul contract so that I don't have to go into all the details. And it's a short introductory video, and it will give you some background if you're interested in learning how I put the charts together and that sort of thing. And so he was, again, this great journalist, and he has these wonderful numbers in his charts. The 4s, all about trusting in the flow of abundance, being able to be good in business, have a good mind, duplication, learning as learning as others have learned. So you kind of, it's a very, very strong number. It really gives you a very futuristic look, a sense of what's going to come. So he would have this great ability for that. And it really helped him. I always talk about the physical part of our triangles first and then get into the spiritual aspects. I don't want to focus too much on all of his numbers. I think just going to highlight some of the ones so that we can really get to some of the solutions, as I mentioned before, about all of this chaos and things that happen in our world that aren't new. These are things that have been going on for years and years. And it's about us learning and growing from those experiences. So he had 8s in karma, which was, he would have struggled initially as a younger man with letting go of things and committing to life and finding his way in society, because this tells me that in other lives, he may not have been able to acclimate himself in society. So this chart was, in my opinion, set up so that he could acclimate himself into society, reach out and be able to connect with people at a deep emotional level, because that was a struggle for him in a past life. So he picked these great talents here. The 4s, all about trusting in God, trusting that things will come to you so that he could always move forward and take his next steps. And then he had these wonderful, I'm going to jump right into some of the spiritual numbers of these 3s, because 3s were all about communication. And obviously he was meant to communicate at a very deep level and get that across to us through his broadcasts. So having these wonderful talents was just a great way to set up this journalistic background that he sought, that really called to him. And so the 6s in his spiritual karma would have added a little bit of blocked creativity, maybe struggling how to present his information. And so he would have to learn to make lists and make sure that he finished projects and work through those lists to make sure that he was achieving his goals. His goals were all about the 7s, which is working with and healing the heart. And this would have been great. This is a very magnetic number, and it brings people to you. So this was a wonderful number for him to be going first as his, journalist, being a journalist, but then being able to draw people to you to be able to listen. And the 8s here in his spiritual goals was all about him connecting to people emotionally at a deep emotional level and serving them in that way. So his soul destiny that he came here to do was all about this having this great power and using it with great integrity. And he was to come into his full soul consciousness. This is the most powerful number, was really for him to become aware at a very high conscious level and to be able to use that power with high integrity. And I see that very much in the things that he accomplished in his life, which I will, I have a list here of some of the things that he was involved with and things that he definitely helped in bringing forth healing the heart, healing his own heart, and becoming, the sevens can be very objective in their expression. And so these people make great judges, counselors, because they can take the emotion out of it and see this very logical perspective. The eights, being that it was in karma, also would have him not be as connected to the emotional body here. And it was all about actually for him to come into the emotional body, because to make great decisions and to help with great integrity, being connected to your emotions is a very, very important thing. We don't value that in our society because it's very egocentric. It's very about making money, and being tied to your emotions can be considered a weakness, when strength is really driven by the emotions of empathy and compassion. And it's not about being overly involved emotionally in other people's problems, but understanding that we have all played roles. We've all played these roles in society: the perpetrator, the victim, and the healer. And so it's all about us working up this ascension ladder and working into a higher level of consciousness. So again, he would have started off with not so much of the emotional side. He would have worked into that, but he had these wonderful talents that help us. These goals are what is our motivation. It gets us out of bed. And so he was all about uniting people, bringing together, this information that's driven from the fours, seeing what's going on. The threes are all about, like I said, communication. And so he was communicating. The spiritual goals were all about communicating that to society. And as he got older, he did tend to pull his emotions in, and he was connecting at a much deeper emotional level. Those instances you can tell with the moon landing, you could tell he was so integrated into that triumphant voyage, and he was so connected passionately in a positive way. JFK, that was a very sad day, and he expressed that with a lot of grace and a lot of dignity. The Vietnam War, when he was reporting on that, was when he really started to come into his fourth sense, as I'll call it. It's driven from your fours, which is seeing things very realistic and in sensing the future, so you can really see what's coming to you. And he was trying to tell everybody, and he did break away from the objectivity that was driven by these sevens, in that he started saying that this war, not just that he was reporting on the war, but he was starting to bring about his own feelings and his own sense of what was going on, that this was not something we were going to be able to win, that we needed to take a deeper look at that. And so that was one of his first real, where he was speaking to the American people and saying, starting to pull away from this idea that, war is the answer, and that we needed to look at this deeper, that we were not going to, there wasn't going to be a winner here, that we were just getting stuck in all of this muck, and not using our other tools of diplomacy, compassion. And he really wanted to, when he came through, that's what he wanted to talk about, because we had a 20-year war in Afghanistan. Not unlike we were in Vietnam for quite a while. I don't remember the length of the time. I was a young girl, but it affected our very small town, and especially my neighbor, who ended up having shrapnel. A bomb had gone up and he had shrapnel in his brain, and then he ended up having to be in care, and really affected him for the rest of his life. And these are very serious. War is a very serious thing. It's something that I don't think ever should happen because power is not about warring, and there are ways that can be done that doesn't mean war. It's not saying that maybe force isn't called for in some very rare cases, but again, it has to start with this diplomacy of compassion. And so as he had worked through this, like I said, he came here to learn about this great integrity, to become this very integral person. And so again, how do we do that? What can we do? Because I want to talk about us wanting to go to war, or wanting to war against the Taliban like we did. We went to war and we drove them out, or however you want to say that is, but it's really got to come from a deeper level, because again, the Taliban is living one side of their reality, which is driven very much by this ancestral patterning that goes back many centuries, that is a very unconscious way of living in the world. And so again, it's this duality playing out in our 3D world. But for us to continue to condemn, and it's something everybody wants to do, because we feel if we're condemning, we have to speak out against everything. It's actually creating more separateness. So to quote Mother Teresa, she had said, "I will never protest anything, but I will march for peace." It doesn't mean there are not things that you can do. It has to be done with love, with compassion, and with empathy and diplomacy. So you can give to those causes that are fueling those types of communities. He was the chairman for the Interfaith Alliance, which was to protect faith and freedom by respecting individual rights, protecting the boundaries between religion and government, and uniting diverse voices to challenge extremism and build common ground. So for us to it's okay to condemn actions of people, but it's not okay to condemn people. There's a real distinction there that I'm trying to explain to everybody out there. And as our egos you want to help people, but you have to be very careful that you're not totally condemning others, because you're really strengthening those others in their positions by doing that. It's a very delicate balance that we play here for those things. The other things that Walter was involved with was he talked about how he felt it was the wrong approach, this whole war on drugs, and how we were attacking people and incarcerating people, and what a better process would have been was there was a group at that time, and I think it's still in existence, called the Drug Policy Alliance Group. They were a nonprofit organization dedicated to advance policies that promote sovereignty of individuals over their minds and bodies. So again, it's taking a more holistic approach and bringing people better choices and raising their awareness and their consciousness through education and other means. Whenever we war on something, we actually give more energy to that we are focusing on. So whatever we focus on, we want it to be something that is doing very positive work, helping, healing, without watching for that shadow side of keeping people very needy. So he also was involved in what was called the Heifer International organization, and they were about eradicating poverty and hunger through sustainable, value-based, holistic community development. And it was all about self-sufficiency and sustainability. These are things, getting involved in helping, going, if you can, be a person of action and go over and help I know a lot of people who had gone to places like Haiti and Africa and helped them dig wells and set up irrigation so that they could become a self-sustaining group. It isn't about us just sending $10 off, even though, please, that is, if you can do that, and it's the only thing you can do, that is helps as well. But if you're looking for action items, that's what I want to talk about, is to not fuel by us all getting together and condemning and keeping our focus on the Taliban. We want to focus on, again, creating a better environment where humans are treated at a standard level, women, children, across the world. And that has to come from the power of a United Nations, in my opinion. It has to come from all of the countries getting together and saying, this is what we're going to stand for and this is what we won't. And then we will use our power in those regards to implement these structures. And it may mean us giving up some of our power to develop this power dynamic of a United Nations, where we're giving people the rights to be sovereign, but also setting up the protecting mechanisms in place so that people aren't being abused by people who are using that power against others for their own benefit. So again, very deep discussions. Walter was wonderful to bring through on these issues, and I just wanted to highlight his chart because I want to get to the messages that Walter wanted to bring on these items. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen, and so we're gonna go right to the cards because I want to keep this video brief on just solutions and making some sense out of the chaos and the tough energy. So right away, he's bringing me towards the Keepers of the Light Oracle. So let's see what, by Kyle Gray, this is the Archangels, Ascended Masters, and one fell out right away. So we have the wonderful energy of faith, humanity, and benevolence. This is about staying calm, trust the good in yourself and others, see the light in the world, not focusing on just what can happen from a fear perspective, but what else can happen. The world is watching. There is a lot of power in that. We need to stay open about keeping journalists in these areas so that they can report and be a voice for the people if they're being abused. So those are the things that he wants to share, and that's faith. Wonderful. So the next deck is Work Your Light Oracle. What can we do to work our light in these cases? Awakening. Energetic upgrades, a new way of being, and integration. So this is us going deeper into our own selves, going deeper into including everyone, including the perpetrators, so that we can help heal all, because it's going to take a healing for everyone to bring us up to those next frequency upgrades and become this new way of being. Walter is saying he sees that as this is more of an opportunity for this now than ever, since there ever has been on this planet. More upgrades, people are becoming more aware with all of the technology and the wonderful connective tools that we have. We don't just have to sit and listen to one person give us the news. There's so many ways we can get information and to keep in touch and to share our love and our processes. with everyone. So it's all about the integration of that light and making sure that we're sharing it. We're coming from those deep levels of love and not from a place of hate and retaliation and revenge, because then it doesn't make us any, it keeps us in that separateness, and it makes us the same as the Taliban. It makes you no different. This is an opportunity for us to help in a different way and to include their healing, allowing them to start healing their ancestral patterning, just as we are doing that through our own work that we're doing on ourselves and through listening to other people. So the next item that we want to talk about is number 11 comes out by the book. There's a little bit of glare on these cards, but I am going to read this particular message. So I am being directed by Walter, who's a wonderful energy, very fatherly, very much of the protector, the divine masculine, which is all about protecting others, allowing them to be who they are, but with honor, that protection and will and courage. Great energies, as we all have the masculine and feminine energies. It's time for us to start balancing those energies out. And 11 is a master number, which that was on the card. And I love the elephants and how they're guiding each other, with the oldest, wisest elephant wanted me to point that out, guiding the younger ones, leading the way. So by the book is abiding by social rules, conformity, respecting cultural or family customs and universal laws. The universe works within a structure of divine laws and principles that provides a framework for human experience and evolution. The law of abundance, the law of prayer, the law of karma, the law of attraction, the law of thought, the law of compensation, and the law of nature are only a few that are known. These principles create perfect order and operate with a kind of precision beyond human understanding, even revolution in its place in universal law. Human beings, in turn, have their own laws and customs that vary from culture to culture and family to family. Laws keep social order and govern behavior, reflecting an instinctive understanding that harmony is important. This is a time to learn these laws and conform to them rather than being the rebel and flouting them. When this card appears, submit to structure and follow the rules, even if they seem to make no sense. Release resistance, for universal laws will correct any disharmony. Open your eyes to those universal laws, and it will be easier to go by the book at this time. So that's a wonderful message that brings that whole cultural understanding of allowing, trusting. He had those wonderful 4s in his chart. Walter is all about trusting in the flow. These are lessons. We can't protect everybody also from the lessons that they need to learn, from also learning their own independence and their own power within them. Again, we were there for 20 years. Part of it, this is letting go and letting things fall as they may, so that we can reevaluate. It's a time of letting go and reevaluation. So now I am drawn to the secret language of light. And this is all about focus. Number 37 adds to 10, and 10 is the end of a cycle, and it can be a karmic cycle. So 37 focus, I am going to read one part he's saying in here. So it's about using your focus on what you want to create. Some thoughts you are aware of and some you're not. The latter are thoughts you have repeated so often that they become beliefs and body memory. The point of attraction is more fluid than you think. It is the overarching energy of your collected ideas, active beliefs, and your personality. Change any idea or belief and your point of attraction shifts. You sense the world around you through the filter of your attraction point. So this is all about us refocusing. What are we thinking about? Refocusing using meditation. You can see this person is meditating to the light. This is exceptionally important right now, I believe. Cryon, Lee Carroll is having everyone over the next few days get up at 11:11 and focusing their meditation. You could go to his website and focusing on, again, creating a new world, new beliefs, raising the consciousness so we get a shift here, and that will help. That will help things. Right? Being drawn to the sacred geometry activations. So have a activation that we can do right here and right now. And so we're coming up with 23. Dynamic. And so the frequency of dynamic supports our ability to harmonize between layers and aspects of different origin and frequency. It helps us to put together a reality that is made up of many different elements, both familiar and completely new, with ease, grace, and great joy. So that is, I'm going to hold that up one more time because that is a sacred geometry. And putting that out there. 23 adds up to 5. 5 is all about courage, pioneering energies, giving us the strength to speak our truth, to help others. Again, like I said, without keeping them helpless. We're going to go right to the archetype cards. Walter wants to bring forth. And so what's coming in that he wants to share is the destroyer archetype. The light side of the destroyer is releasing what is potentially destructive and preparing for new life. The shadow attribute is intoxication. It's intoxication with destructive power, destroying others' dreams or potentials. And I think this is how a lot of us felt when we heard and could feel all of that fear and abandonment when we pulled out and people were left and there was all this betrayal. And again, what side do we want to be on this coin? Walter. We'll have several more cards that we will go through before our final mantra, healing mantra that we will do. Protection. So what is protection? How do we protect? How do we go now? And what can we do to protect that the things that were created there over the 20 years are going to stay? And how can we protect others that are going through the crises that they're going through? We're always protected, he wants to say. So in many traditions, so this is all about the guardian oak. In many traditions, the oak tree is associated with wisdom, strength, and protection. One of the many remarkable things about the oak is that from the smallest acorn, a powerful tree of enormous size can spring forth and live for hundreds of years. The roots of the oaks go as deep into the earth as its branches reach into the sky. The oak is honored for its expanse, its nobility, and its endurance. Additionally, its tendency to attract lightning confirmed in the minds of many ancients that the oak represented life force, vitality, and strength. Many cultures revered the oak and honored the living spirit within it. They believed that there was a mystic doorway in the oak tree through which one could travel to inner worlds. Oak is one of the most compelling symbols for protection. You carry the energy of a leader, and you have great authority in life. Great wisdom is expanding within you, and others sense this. This card can also mean to protect your assets, take care to guard and protect your home, your loved ones, and yourself. Protection. And so we're going to go to the energies of Archangel Metatron for the final messages. And so he's having the inner child come out. Hear and know me. And this card is 36, which adds up to 9. 9 is the endings. But 9 was also about power. Remember, Walter had that in his soul destiny. It was all about using your creative power with integrity and coming into your full soul consciousness. Message. I will read about the inner child. This is from Amanda Ellis's Self-Mastery from Archangel Metatron. Stop for a moment. Someone is calling, and you have drowned out their cries for long enough. This is the voice of your inner child, often ignored and sometimes unknown, neglected, or pushed aside. Maybe you don't recognize their voice, or maybe it's familiar, but you haven't had time to fully listen to it lately. Your child lives within you, a presence that is like a hologram that has been imprinted within it every experience, thought, belief, and desire from your childhood. All the times you laughed, all the times you cried, and everything in between. The times you sang freely and the times you felt unheard. He or she sits within your heart. Is your door to them closed or open? Today you are asked to open that door and allow your inner child to come forward at an age and time when they wish to reveal themselves to you. Is it safe to do so? What age are you taken back to? And how do they look today? They may be crawling. They may be the crawling infant looking for nurturance, the expectant adolescent ready for adventure, the abandoned, fearful 5-year-old, or the exuberant, happy 9-year-old who loved life and embraced every moment. Metatron was with them, just as he is here with you now, and he is with the people of Afghanistan. Maybe you sensed angels in childhood, but weren't allowed to fully embrace them. You may have misunderstood or been afraid of their light, but they were always there to help, not hinder, just as they are now. Allow Metatron to reveal the glory and beauty of his kingdom for your child, to see with new eyes the love that is here for them. You are encouraged to meditate, speak aloud, and write down any feelings that arise from connecting to your inner child. What do they say? How do they feel? What do they need? Look into the kind, loving eyes of Archangel Metatron and see and feel how he understands everything, acknowledges all that you have been through, and offers a new beginning now for your child and you. You are a precious soul and a unique being, and you matter. Everybody matters. As a child, you were put here on earth to laugh, play, learn, and explore. If this didn't happen, you can begin again. It may seem difficult at first to play or feel free, but you can do it. Tune in to whatever your child wants to do today. Bake a cake, go cycling, eat ice cream, get creative. They will tell you if you listen. Together you can heal from the past, learn to live happily in the present, and look forward to the next phase of life, healed, whole, and intact. Adult and inner child together, reunited, happy, and belonging to each other, finally free. Walter talked about how he could unwind. He used to drum, sing, act silly. When he'd play piano, he'd wear a goofy hat. Or all of us getting back to our inner child, being happy, pushing the joy out into the world is of most importance right now through this difficult time. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It doesn't mean that you don't understand that they're going through a deep, deep transformation right now with a lot of fear, and that bad, awful things can happen. But it's up to us to work with our inner child, to bring through the happiness and the joy that we can, and to keep them in mind as we're doing that, to allowing that energy to flow to them, to the healing, to those people needing to heal those dark, deep patterns of control and that patriarchal, distorted view of how things should be. So our final word will be from the Healing Mantra deck by Matt Kahn. I always end with a healing mantra that to say as many times as you can over the next few days. What Walter would like to explore. This is about processing grief. My losses prove how deeply I loved. My losses prove how deeply I loved. My losses prove how deeply I loved. Please repeat after me. My losses prove how deeply I loved. Please say that as many times over the next few days. This healing journey that we're all on. Thanks to Walter for showing up and for sharing his wisdom through the oracles and his energy. I'm so grateful and honored to have him here. And so we'll end this wonderful session with something Walter used to say at the end of his wonderful sessions. And he would always end his episodes by saying, and that's the way it is. I believe that's what he said, but we can change the world, and we can do it with compassion and empathy. So thank you for spending the time with me today. And I will put all of my information down in the description box. So please like, share, and subscribe so we can get the word out about the compassion and empathy. Thank you and much love.